Julie here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Mercury hour, and we are in Jupiter night. Moon is 27-degree Gemini, ruled by Mercury at 23-degree Virgo. Sun is 22 and is on the lot of fortune of the 1800 chart for the Netherlands. And yeah. And the midheaven is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter at 20 degrees Cancer, ruled by the Moon in the first house. So let's caretake for a video, and this video is about Benjamin Netanyahu as a study case of political assassination prevention, hopefully. And while we caretake for a video, I would like to talk about something. First of all, mark my words, I believe in the coming years, we the people will discover we have been more participant in our regime than we ever knew. So, but this is, for my story in the past year or 2 years, at least, was astrologically, midlife crisis. I'm 41, will be 42, May 2026, and I was doing astrology, and then you do astrology of celebrities, you do astrology of, martial artists, whistleblowers, celebrities, scientists, philosophers, and then, mafia, politicians, business people. And so throughout that, as I do astrology, there's also like astrological magic and all those nice things, and my own development. And then as you come closer to the practices that people or successful people do, and as a person who consumed a lot of the content of like all these coaching podcasts, and listening to, even shout out to Tim Ferriss on that regard. Well, as we proceed to being on air, okay, moving from earth and water to the age of air, a lot of the hidden structures that have been governing our governance, amongst many other things, are about to due diligence, full disclosure. And I think, it starts with the Epstein ring. Now we had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is absolutely does not stop there, because we had a booming of content creators with Illuminati in their DM. We had all the things that were low-key, are, billions of homeless people going missing, and at the same time, the many practices that people learned: financial freedom, manifestation, sexual transmutation, and so on and so forth, with the challenges: incubus, succubus, spiritual warfare, computer interface, whatnot, are surprising. I think all of us might not be in exactly the same trajectory at the same time, but they're surprising all of us, and we are all in response to that, kind of a decentralized system exposed to all the dumb fuckery. And I think my video about Benjamin Netanyahu is really, in the series of the videos before the eclipse, very powerful, very, personally transformative for me. And in the last year, I also had to tend to, the opportunities, um, that arise in regarding to that, um, and and I had to tend to the challenges for me. Okay, it's like, where do I take my podcast? Do I invite interview? Do I do interviews? I tend to both prevention of political assassination and tending to ritual satanic abuse survivors, and cover developments in NATO um, and all kinds of things that I was not even expecting. Sides of me coming up to the forefront. Um, and I think that there is a lot of the things that we have considered, both on the democration of our fields, and I derive from philosophy of science, where I academically kind of almost originally came from, which is the democration question of science, or what is scientific, but also the definement of the malleable borders of our fields um, in a changing world, and the malleable form of our boundaries when people do when people are both subjected to stuff like MK Ultra, that can go all about conception, and ritual abuse and dissociation, while learning manifestation, energy, sexual transmutation, creating rapport. I remember when I did Chart of Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he said he sends energy towards interviewers, positive energy before he comes to an interview. And at the threshold of like, hey, should I make it a format of like an interview and then trying to delineate the chart? There was, okay, what would I have to be dealing with? Agencies, lawyer, peterings. So me being me, I'm going to do something about, like, I'm going to try to tend to that problem, and being incredibly authentic, because as the opportunities presented themselves, and I have opportunity, the asteroid opportunity next to my sun, not too far from my lot of entrapment. um, so this is something that has been, um, flooded me with opportunities, but also with the need to tend to what it means to be successful, and how do I allow for that to be in a safe, sane, and willingly consensual way, when everything is designed, from the wealth consolidation to the presentation and the mind control, to go, okay, to try to interfere in that, while understanding that people need their creative flow to express an expressive flow, to create that rapport and to broadcast, but also to do all the other things that they want us to do. So, yeah, to quote Andrew Tate, abused women become like men. But on a more radical level, people abused become dead-like, and the attempts to steal everything, including the creative energy, or try to bind people's soul, or whatnot, um, and all that entails. And it's kind of like when you turn the gaze away and say, well, I'll just have my sushi and, I don't know, walk the dog and grow my garden. Then your garden is sprayed, your house is on the rituals, and when you banish the energy to try to make you support assassination of your prime minister, um, just the usual, housing crisis. so, so you're like, okay, I'll tend to that. And this is how a lot of the things that are supposed to be this, but that's the thing. That's basically the point of this episode. When people are practicing all the rituals that they do for success, and those rituals have to do with the erotic energy, have to do with all kind of things that are done on that regard, and even lust magic, or um, like people are doing things, um, and it's not just always a person consciously doing that. There are rituals done. When I was doing Spirit of Matter, it was like channeling. And then where's that coming from? What am I channeling? I don't know. That's fun. Let's try that. And so the rituals that are done on every influencer, juxtaposing people, but also they want to create kind of like dramatic situations. So it kind of almost coerces us to transmute and transform and face our deepest taboos, because they're going to be out there anyway. Um, for me, for a very, very young age, I don't know how I knew, but it was something about taking into account that I might be in the public eye, and and the radical acceptance that comes with that, with all the weird trajectories, um, while you know bringing all together, the podcast, the astrology, the connecting with my own energy and being on my own journey of sexual sovereignty, in spirit and in matter. The weird things that happened to me. Okay, I had. I have to tell you something. There was an attempt to do astral rape, and then my cell phone. The emoji for rape is grapes, and my cell phone screensaver. After I turned it on, it showed grapes, and I'm like, the technology was my witness. And so it is beyond disturbing. Um, And I understand that for those of you that think that you're like the only ones dealing with that, or that nobody would understand you, no, every single public and not public person, decision maker, content creator, anybody that does something with their life is dealing with that dumb fuckery in one way or another. Um, the social engineering, the sets of mind control, okay, trying to get the person. Now, sometimes there are good things that come with that. Um, and I think my entire Spirit of Matter series, Rockefeller Astralic on BitChute, Jupiter Point of Talis on BitChute, Sirius on BitChute, um, all of that is both my insistence on creating and expressing my voice um, and growing, and also those juxtapositions, like, hey, look at that chart, look at that chart, what's happening, um, and I don't necessarily know why, and there are a lot of good things about this as well, but there are a lot of things that need to that are outdated, that need to perish, and they also expose the behind the scenes. And I think the most one of the most important arenas is our representatives, because this is where it's not doing a chart of a celebrity, it's being in a position where, um, yeah, I'm going to use that Procyon. Nodig. Being in a position where many weird things happen, you kind of pay attention to the fact that on the other side, many weird things happen as well. You have no idea of why and what is the social engineering around that. You notice that there is social engineering. You understand that certain trajectories that occur. Um, you see your own transits as an astrologer. You see the transits for the other chart. And for me, I was looking at other people's charts, And then I was like, oh, my chart is kind of like, and then the first thing that comes into my mind is like, okay, that's just, and you move on with your life. Um, and before you know, it's like, well, I'm the astrologer. I'm the only astrologer who talks about this. Am I the only astrologer who talks about this? I'm the only astrologer who talks about this. And so, um, and there are the varied cultures, social ranks, questions that come to my own mind, um, and in that big, giant, changing world, everything is changing. The media is changing. The behind the scenes are changing. What's being exposed and leaked is changing. Um, Learning from people along the way. Um, Avoiding their attempts to do the same old scandals. And that same old is both no longer, the way people responded to Charlie Kirk's assassination perhaps is not new, but there is also this almost a populi immunity to propaganda, hand in hand with a desire for us to not lose our humanity. Um, and this means that almost no stone unturned, almost nothing of those things that were done in enclosed rites and rituals that even the participants are dissociative of are now all in the open. And this is posing a lot of opportunities, a lot of innovation, as well as a lot of challenges. If somebody comes to, I don't know, wants to be an interviewer, or wants to do a podcast, or wants to do astrology, there's so many things that I would need to address. It's kind of like, hey, are you a target individual? Did you go through ritual abuse? Do you have PTSD? Um, do you tantrically connect with yourself? Um, are you sexually sovereign in spirit and in matter? What currency are you going to be using? What are the daily rituals? Okay, and do you know how to notice when the red flags for cults? All these many things that people would need to know just by doing content creation, let alone business ownership. Um, do you know about the people that grew up like in aristocracy, or and then okay, listen to Annika Lucas, listen to Alandra, um, but also um, no less of a big deal is when those opportunities present themselves, it's not the same sketchbook. It's not the same. I remember when I was in high school, and I was interviewing Borg. Abraham Borg um, was actually, I think it was one of my first public interviews, that I was in a panel, and I refused. It was a yellow question. I refused to ask him, and so for me, as a person in high school, I was like, hey, I know what I'm not participating with, because it's my name on the line. It's my integrity as a journalist, and it's what I'm willing and not willing to do to be a journalist. Um, and it doesn't matter what. Okay, it's kind of like, hey, the interviewer is kind of like, hey, that's sacred. That's sacred, safe space for a person to be themselves. It also helped me when I did a podcast of astrology, because the few people I interviewed were like, oh my God, you're fresh, you're different, and as much as I express myself, I would not call someone on an interview where it's not like it's their stage. The only time that it was challenging was somebody when somebody tried to teach me astrology. That's something that happens to me when I do astrology. But people were like, "Oh my God, you let me talk about the things that are not that people wouldn't usually let me talk about." Um, you see a sign there, and and that kind of um, created on an international level, in a very small international level, because it would be like 14 views, and then I interview another astrologer, and they're like, "Oh my God, I love your podcast. I have this, I have that, and so on. I was so glad you sent me." They're like, "Oh, you're one of the 14." And at first thinking like, okay, they have to do the background check. Who am I? but then, but then it's like, no, people actually watching my podcast. It's like there's 14 viewers, one of them world-renowned astrologers, and it piled up to way more than that. And because those people never have a digital footprint in the common sense, um, they are, there are those things where, um, how should I say that? It's no longer, thinking about entertainment, actually. Entertainment lawyers. Yeah, I have a karmic rope with an entertainment lawyer. Karmic moon rope with an entertainment lawyer. Um, and so when we get to the nitty gritty of the behind the scenes, and the change in the world factor, um, there are just so many changing factors that all the rules are really, 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 really not what we. It's not something that I can prescribe to someone. Also, when it comes to practicing astrology, as astrologers, we say, yeah, we were told kind of like, don't delineate the chart of like your teachers and so on. And people don't like their charts to be delineated. I'm like, okay, I went through transits. My colleagues and teachers went through transits. If I would not look at the chart, it would be a world war. um, and then that's being used for me when I'm looking at charts of like other people. Um, Only a year after understanding, like, hey, I stood my ground about something, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy in retrospective that I did that. Um, I remember that scandal of Jennifer Lopez when she was looking at astrology charts to see for recruitment, and indeed, there's just so many things that come to that. Um, and that's a changing that's a change in trajectory. People cannot expect us to go by the rules of the people that designed a set of rules and regulations, and by design either made us violate them or made us play by a certain playbook that's absolutely not the playfield. And yet, within that, to authentically create our own gnosis, and evolving and emergence of community and society happens as well. So yeah, there was so I was just looking at the interviews for Benjamin Netanyahu, and in the past 2 years, I see one. I don't know if it's like a cisgender woman or not, but one person who has the visibility of a woman that presents themselves as a woman. Only one. And I'm like, what happened? Where the ladies at? Um, so that's unusual in the field. Um, and What I have to say to the people that somehow run into that video, uh, definitely I wouldn't give up connecting with what I actually want, what I actually desire. Even if there is confusion, let that confusion be, and keep on creating. Um, Definitely get informed with defending your energy and so on and so forth. Um, there are a lot, and for the people that are coming from the echelons that were familiar. If I think about social media, where everybody had to have a social media outlet, and the monetization models were changing, and there were a lot more communication with the crowd. Um, Definitely, um, coming out of trauma bond relational type is something that is whatever one can do to come out of any, you know, trauma bond based relations, all the type of Machiavellian techniques to captivate the crowd. Um, First of all, once the veil is thinning, it's not going to be, how should I say that? Um, it's only working with the people that are either trafficked or, you know, don't have healthy boundaries. And basically, building a safe relation with oneself, and even setting the intention to do so, is something that's going to give you such a strategic advantage over any type of trauma bond control tactics. And that might be stripping off, well, I consider, I for myself have been working on that for decades. Um, and that makes it possible for me to uh, um, be in contact with the energies and charts of the classic visible people, the survivors, and and okay, and maintain somehow, um, through a lot of trials and tribulations. And this is something that is for the people that were previously more secluded, the celebrities, but also the targeted individuals. Um, that is an intention that is absolutely positive, and also radical acceptance. Everything's going to be out there, but it's the different type of radical acceptance, because it's the different things. You know, usually what people would prepare themselves to be kind of like being visible or being seen, they would think of, I don't know, the text they texted to an ex when they were drunk, or the time they had a nervous breakdown because something went off with, I don't know, the air condition, and it went public, or um, and of course, they knew that the extortion calls are. I think that some of them did not even know about the extortion calls because of dissociation and the drugs involved. Um, but here we are talking like really the things. Think about targeted individuals are like, oh, wait, hey, that person's going through that. People that go through like their a spiritual transformation, psychic awareness, and it's like, oh, I can see the energy of that person in that person, and it is a rapport, um, and people are building they are building the acquaintance with the new. It's not the same interviews that people would sit to, and it's also not the same control tactics that worked for like Pluto in Capricorn, where everybody did the Beyonce strategy. And I saw even politicians do that. And then I was like, but wait, aren't they? I mean, I know the celebrity politician, aren't they supposed to be our representatives? What's going on? But actually, thanks to politicians' charts, I kind of began um, to grow even more myself, because I felt more comfortable coming in contact with that, because like that's, I'm a citizen. It's our politics. You know? I'm also the person being affected by the decision. So whether it's the army or it's the government or whatnot, it's kind of like, hey, that's affecting me. I have the right to speak. I have the right to speak my mind, and so on and so forth. And before I know it, I'm an astrologer. I am a person that also did interviews from time to time. I'm a philosopher of science. Yes, aromatherapist, which is kind of like a healing profession, academic. I am, yes, singing from time to time. Um, I have people try to traffic me, so I also know a little bit about the security challenges of targeted individuals and assassination prevention. Um, I have my own, work experience, um, that's accumulating, and then all these things together, well, people do social engineering to create all kinds of scandals. And for me, I just laugh about it, and so on and so forth. And before I know it, some people think that they're already going to have a litigation here. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Nine, nine, nine. and so, and so, and at the same time, expose the mechanism behind extortion called satanic ritual abuse and wealth consolidation. So, um, yeah, how did I call this episode? Yes, but there was another thing about it. Oh, uh, um, the the lethal rituals behind um, the knee. And this is where, for example, I talk about, hey, there were rituals done on Benjamin Netanyahu, and they even tried to make me participant in those rituals. Um, Fortunately, I was at a position where, where you're far enough from a vortex, so to speak, then there is more sovereignty, which is a privilege to be used, so that so that it is maintained. So Benjamin Netanyahu natal chart, yes, and then of course there is also me, doing a chart, channeling, receiving, oh, that chart. And I was like looking at the chart, and I would more often look at the chart because of astrology. I would look at the chart before I would look at like the interviews and the deep, which is upside down to how you do interviews. And I love that. That's something unique. That's something that I bring to the table, that nobody did. And then I would look at the interviews. Like, for example, there are only right now I'm looking at interviews of like Mark Rutte. The 10 months ago there was a featured documentary about the Hirtwilders, and then it's like it's interesting, and there is a different level of participation and involvement, and it's very chaotic, but we are living in chaotic times. So let's say that this video is, yes, because sometimes it is cut, so I upload another time. And even when it comes to be very honest, I don't know if it is more risky for me to interview a high-rank politician, business person, or yes, or military milieu, or to interview a ritual abuse survivor. And I think the risks are kind of similar. Um, and I have been tending to political assassination prevention. Um, but then, yes, um, and then there is there's the astrology, and then there is the journalistic. And while they try to control every single information which will not last long. Astrologically, we have that window when they try to do that. And while certain things will stand the test of time, um, it's going to be a good thing, bad thing, who knows? Because some people, for example, if I think about me covering NATO's chart um, for a year now, and perhaps in the beginning it's like, hey, that's out of our control. But later it's kind of like, hey, I'm actually tackling useful things, and that letting go of control that brings in the think tank and is good for the nervous system, and is not, you know, coming with all um, uh, uh, the controlled things. Where when I would give a reading, it's kind of like, hey, that's an authentic reading, whereas I saw people are afraid to talk, about certain things, um, while to get an actually authentic reading is something that I think is hardly practiced in those echelons. Um, yes, that's what I have to, and every day is a new eureka. I would watch an interview, and I would think about, I don't know, the visibility, and things from my past would arrive, like the times I was doing filmmaking, and the many things I was tending to back then that now I don't, and so on. Um, or the many things, because when you bring something, all the many things together, then there is the camera and the light and the editing and the this and the that, um, and yet there is the focus on the freedom of the content that I bring, um, or the or just thinking about Neptune, and how that is both letting go of the story, letting go of the image, having to surrender something, um, and then something bigger suddenly comes out, and mythical. Um, yeah, just so many things. There's just so many things, um, and I'm grateful to create and to bring that value. Um, yes, with all that I have to give, um, and all that is kind of asking to arrive right now in these turbulent times, in those challenging times, um, that for me are completely transformational. I'm about to go through my Uranus opposition. They say life begins at 40 for a reason, and for those of you who are like, I don't know, above that, then um, there are enough life transforming transits in the sky for every age. So um, yes, yeah, that's my little vloggy rant. Um, and this is also, Uranus is on my Chiron, so Chiron Mercury, the wounds around communication, and I'm posting that for people who have a wound around speech, or maybe writing, or even a neurodivergence, kind of like, yeah, we can create, we can bring value to the world, we can be who we are, um, and and reestablish, know the convention and break the convention, um, and partake in the conversation, um, in new and innovative way, and have our own and have our own voice. Um, and this is so that people will not be, trapped in a box of, this is an interviewer, this is an astrologer, this is the interface between them, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. It's kind of like, hey, Falcon, people are still trying to release the behind gloved hand Epstein list, you're probably okay. Whatever you think you're doing wrong, you're probably okay.